All right, we are live. Thank you, everyone, for waiting on us. We're a couple of minutes late. We were just getting ready to go live, and my internet dropped for whatever reason. And then when I came back, my camera wasn't working, and then my mic wasn't working, and my audio wasn't working. It just messed everything up. But thank you for being patient. And those of you who are here for the replay, thank you for checking out the video. We are very appreciative of you coming by, listening to our conversation. My name's Mitch. This is Scruffy City Aquatics, and I'm here with my pal Tanner of TK Aquascaping.
Yes. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. It looks like we already got a good group of people on the stream.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for coming out and watching along with us, or watching us, I guess.
Watching us. Yeah. See if I can. I don't like where that ended up. I tried to move over here to the tank this week since we're going to be talking about it, and my setup's not great. Hold on one moment.
Looks like we've got the Zen Ginger as always. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for moderating the stream and chat for us. We've got Red Laser, TJ Autocross, Killer Kitty 08. Let's see, Vibes Aquatics. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well.
What's up, Vibes?
Sky Dancer. I'm sure I missed a couple. I think I saw Basement Aquatics. Yeah, there he is. Basement Aquatics. Hope you're doing all right, Dave.
Dave, you weren't here early. I stopped by an hour early just to see if you were here. And then, of course, my internet goes down as we're going live. Which also means that none of my slides are in, so I'm working on that right now, too.
Yeah, hearing from Mitch, it looks like we got some pretty good slides for tonight's stream.
I would like to tell you that I edited it down, but truth be told, we're just going to figure it out as we go. Let's see here. Try to get this where I want it as it moves. That's going to have to do it for tonight. All right. I saw, where did he go? I saw it. Where is it? John Michael Carrillo. I know I say your name wrong. I know I do. But thank you for coming by. That is where I got the guppy endlers and also the Java Moss and probably a bunch of other stuff. I owe that dude a lot of stuff. Thankfully, he has a filter that I have sponges for, so I'm going to be able to hook him up with that.
Nice. He has got some awesome planted tanks.
Yeah.
I really enjoy seeing those pictures. I think he posted some yesterday. Sometime this week. They were.
Yeah, might have been today.
They look great.
Yesterday.
That wall of stem plants. You might need to show Mitch a few pointers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we've got to see his tanks for a while now because he was one of the early attendees at the ETAA. All right. Basement Aquatics says, I am so stoked. I hope that's about this live stream because I'm stoked about this live stream. As I clear my throat, I apologize. Still a thing right now. Apparently it never goes away. TJ Autocross says the background looks great. Thank you. This is the tank in question. Let's see. Let me put this up here. Did you see this, Tanner? I know when I send you the link, it send you this. So this was the thumbnail for this live stream. And that is the 75-gallon the day after I set it up.
You've had this tank running for quite a while now, right?
2 years. It's been running for 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll talk about that here in just a moment as I play around with, there we are. How about that? There we are. Okay. So this live stream, we are going to do something. Actually, can I say we're going to do something different when we're a new live stream? Isn't everything we do different?
Yeah.
I think so. I think everything's different. What we're going to do is, it's been a long conversation between me and Tanner about what may be going on with my 75-gallon tank. And I have a number of theories of why I have issues. And what's funny is I recently have new issues that I'm fighting through and trying to deal with. I'm also getting ready to start up some new tanks in the next few months, I hope. Still working out some of those details. I actually was messaging, uh, uh, let's see, I was messaging Kane. I was trying to think, Keeper Kane. I don't know why I couldn't come up with Keeper Kane. I was messaging Kane from Keeper Kane about, I think I've changed my setup like 4 or 5 times. Select Pet is here driving as always. Thanks for coming by, John. But yeah, so it's gone back and forth between 20 longs and 40s. 3 tier is where I've been leaning. Um, I've I've toyed with the idea of a sump, but as I think about that, I don't want to put 3 tanks on one sump. If I have issues, I got to deal with all 3 tanks, and that kind of defeats the purpose of having them separate. So I'm going to stick to sponge filters because that's what I love. I love sponge filters. I'm going to put sponge filters on all of them, and I'm just going to do 3 or 4 tanks. The bottom tank, though, what I'd like to do is 3, or I'm sorry, 4. But the bottom tank be my quarantine tank because I don't have any place to set up a 10-gallon once I set this thing up. So the bottom tank will just be quarantine. It'll be where new fish and inhabitants go. It's where probably grow out for some plants at some point, things like that. So I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming about all this stuff that I hope to do. And it'll be a process. I was telling someone the other day, this is not going to be a light bulb, one video, and it's up. This is going to be building a stand, painting a stand. I think the Petco sale on tanks is going on right now. So I actually do need to be looking for a 20 long so that when I get the stand up, I can at least put 1 tank on it because the 25 will have to come down when I put the stand up. So I've got to have a place to move everything right off the bat. So that will be a thing. That'll probably be a video. Speaking of videos, last week on the live stream, I said that I hoped to have a video out by Thursday. I failed and got it out by Saturday. I've got a video that's probably just as far along as last week's video, and I'd love to be able to say it would come out on Thursday because I like that Thursday release. I just don't think I'm there yet. I think it'll end up being Saturday. So, but there will be another video this week. I got some new shrimp, and they went in the 25-gallon. I realized I could get something different from red cherries since I'm going to have more than 1 tank. It's something new for me, and so yeah, I did some filming of that, and it's going to be a video. I see a lot of people here. Did we say hi to Stephen P?
No, I believe Stephen P just joined recently. Thanks for joining us.
And I know you already thanked Zen Ginger and the mods, but I just want to say again, thank you. We really appreciate all the help. We have no idea how to handle that. I think I made you a mod. Oh, and packing up for the Keystone Clash. Not packed up yet. Jenna will pack up for me tomorrow night. That's pushing it. That's good. That's good. I am a last minute packer too, and I always leave the house thinking I've left something. There is something I'm gonna have to buy on this trip, and usually there is.
Yeah, I'm a duffel bag guy. I grab it and just toss it in and hope for the best.
I wish I could. I really do. Contacts and allergy stuff and all of that. I've got to pack a serious bag whenever I go somewhere. But yeah, we've talked about it in the past. I've got some serious FOMO going on with the Keystone Clash. Everywhere I look, everybody's getting ready to leave for it. It'd be a long trip. I was considering going to Kentucky a few weeks back for what was that, Triple Crown? Yeah, for the Triple Crown. Would have loved to have done that. Pennsylvania, I looked it up. It's kind of far. I know a lot of y'all are traveling a lot farther. It was not a go for me, but it's something I hope to do sometime, as well as our swap is coming up soon. Did I put a slide in here for that? Let me look. I did. I'm so good. I want to make sure I talk about this because this is important to me. And so some of you all may be in the area. It could be important to you. on October the 8th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Knoxville, Tennessee. It's actually in Fountain City, which is just north of Knoxville. The ETAA will host our fall swap. We have like 20 tables booked as of right now. And we were looking at the floor plan and where to fit everybody, and also talking about whether or not we could get more tables for this thing. Our April swap was good size. Our fall swap, I think we're going to be busting at the seams for the location that we're at. That means the next one will just have to be bigger, and that's awesome. So it's not quite a Aquashella or a Keystone Clash, or any of those shows, but it'll be a good time. We had a lot of fun last time. I can't wait for it. It's my little mini con for the aquarium hobby. But come out, join us for that if you're in the area. And even if you're not, it's worth the travel. You should see Knoxville. Go see the Smoky Mountains. We have beautiful rivers and mountains, and we're in Knoxville. It's a great place to visit. I'll give you some eating recommendations. I'm a little bit of a foodie, as you
Yeah,
can
that'll
tell.
definitely be a great event. That fall swap will be. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is a fall swap. Yeah.
yeah, it is a fall swap, but we do need to say you don't think you're going to be there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will not, more than likely not be there. I have a conflict. I'm double booked that weekend, and
Yeah,
I don't think I'll be able to get out of the other
it
obligations.
happens.
So I did
It
have a
happens.
table, but I do need to message JT about that and let him know. Um, but
19 tables. I meant to say we have 19 tables.
so unfortunately, I will not be there. I am pretty sad about it.
Oh,
Very
I know
sad,
you are.
but
I know you
it
are.
was a
But
lot of
we
fun. I went to the
yeah.
spring swap, and that's where I got to meet a lot of people that I had not ever met before. I've stayed there the whole time. It was great.
Yeah, well, the April swap, we were just like we had only had 3 meetings, and me or my family had been sick for two of those. The so I had only been to 1 meeting and then the swap, and for a lot of people they'd only been to 1 meeting and swap. So I really feel like the swap was the first time we got a chance to see everybody. We still are meeting people for the first time at a uh, club meeting who we did meet at the swap, but we've not seen them since. So as people are, getting used to the schedule and everything, we had a college football game at the same time as our meeting last week, and we still had 20 something people. I would honestly, considering we're a college football town, or at least we used to be. We still are. It's orange everywhere on Saturday, but I was really impressed with 20 people. Really impressed. Of course, we were checking on the score. The people who work the facility where we were at, they were watching it, and so I might have snuck out and asked the score a time or two. But okay.
It
Killer
must
Kitty
be.
says that they are making it to the swap. That'll be awesome. All right, let's get started because I'm afraid I got too much information to go over. Select Pet is still trying to get off work. Thinks he might get off work for the swap. And for sure in Nashville the weekend before. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm
Well,
very
talk about
excited
that.
for that.
I should have a slide for that. I failed you, my friend.
I will. We'll get one for it next stream. But yes, the first Saturday in October, October 1st, actually, we will be having the first Music City Aquarium Society club meeting. It is a club that I and a couple other people have started, and I'm really stoked for that. I will be doing a presentation on planted aquariums and aquascaping. Um, and I think the plan is to raffle off a tank. So that
Nice.
will be similar, very similar if to those of you who were at the ETAA planted tank
Yeah.
presentation, very similar to that. I'm really excited for it. Looking forward to meet a lot of people in the Nashville area, hopefully. And yeah, if you're in the area, definitely check it out.
Yeah, what's fun about those when you give a tank away at a club meeting, what is a fun coincidence about that is you get a lot of kids. A lot of people bring their kids. when you do stuff like that, and which I think's fun. At the first swap, we did some coloring pages and stuff and put them up whenever kids would do that. I think I'm going to try to do that. Actually, I know we're going to do that. And I may try to do something else. I'm trying to come up with like a scavenger hunt for kids, so where they can take it, go
Mhm.
around and maybe ask a question at a booth or something. Because I know quite a few people who have booths, so I think they would agree to it. It's just an idea. Something I'm throwing around because we got a lot of kids at the first one. The Zen Ginger, you cannot fool me. I know what you're doing. And I also saw Jimmy P in here. Thank you, Jimmy P, for
Yes.
coming by.
And I believe
Silver
Kane,
Creek
yep,
Aquatics.
Keeper Kane is in here,
Yeah, what's
and
up,
Silver
man?
Creek Aquatics. But yeah, that's one thing. I've got a meeting location, but I think if the club takes off at any capacity, we will definitely need to upgrade. I'm
Yeah,
hoping we're not full at the
first.
first
Now you want it
meeting.
full. Yeah, you want it full because that will be. I'll tell you, our very first meeting, which I was not able to attend. The guys were so pumped after the meeting because so many people showed up. You're gonna get the same thing. You're gonna be busting at the seams. We're trying to figure out. I mean, um, we're having to try and figure out parking, and we're having to pull out extra seats and stuff. It's great. It's amazing. People are just hungry for that community. So that's awesome. That is the first weekend in October,
Yes,
right?
October 1st, and it is at 2 p.m. Central.
Liquid Zoo is in the house. What's up, Liquid Zoo? Regina
Regina
Phalanges.
Phalange. Pivot.
All right, so that's it on the swap. That's it on kind of stuff about the channel. That's it on the clubs. Hey, check out your local clubs. I highly recommend that. Changed my hobby. That's the whole reason why me and Tanner are here, is
Yeah.
because of the ETAA. That's why we talk about it so much. We want to see our clubs, succeed, and we want to see people in our hobby succeed. It's amazing. I'm going to get off on a tangent again. It's amazing. I've had several conversations this week with people who are asking questions about starting a tank or shrimp or snails or just all this different stuff in the area, where we're just having conversations throughout the week talking about stuff that we're doing or getting ready to do, and people who are trying to think ahead or just different things and being able to share stuff about the hobby. It's just so much more fun with people. And I think that was the title of the live stream that we did with Kane with us. Fish are better with friends, I think is what it was. And that is absolutely true. Fish are better with friends. All right, moving on. All right, 75 gallons behind me. And because of this timer, it will eventually start to dim. It is what it is. Um, I can't figure out a way to stop it from happening. It does happen. So I'm going to very quickly go over some pictures and stuff of my tank's history, and we're going to talk about the issues that I've kind of had. And I'm going to try not to spend too much time on it. So this was the 25 gallon, which is currently, you may have seen in a video, it's what the green cories and the guppy endlers and the new shrimp are in. This was it. This was after I found success with plants for the first time. I kept these plants for a very long time. This Amazon sword that's it's in the back to the right is the Amazon sword right here. It's still here. And then that Anubias on that piece of driftwood right there, it's in here too. That moss, long gone. The water sprite, man, I had water sprite forever. And I will tell you, if you can get a hold of some water sprite, do it. It is worth it. At some point in the last year, mine all died off. It's just gone, every bit of it. I had a few pieces left when I did the pond, and I actually found them in some of the floating plants, which is probably what happened is the floating plants. I always floated it. But yeah, it's just gone. So, but that's the 25 gallon. That's what I had when I realized, you know what, I want to do more plants, but this height is killing me. The height of this tank, it's almost as tall as it is wide. It's almost a square look. And I just didn't have, I probably did have a powerful enough light. I didn't know what I was doing with my light. It did have a Nicrew Classic on it. It has the exact same Nicrew Classic on it right now. People sometimes ask, are they any good? 5 years. I've had that light for 5 years. It was on a 10-gallon. It came off and went on the 25. It came off and went on a 10. It's been on 10s for a few years, and now it's back on the 25. I like it, and I have a timer dimmer on it.
I've had some iCrew lights that have lasted. Well, the first ever light I bought was an iCrew light, and it's still on the 55.
Yeah. It's not a sports car, but it is a minivan. It'll get you
It
there.
is a fantastic beginner light. Can't recommend it enough. It really, any of those iCrew, I call them the black box LEDs because they all come in that same black housing. They're all pretty much the same. You can get them for $50 or less. They're worth a try.
Well, the 48, I think I got it for 60. The 48-inch that's on the 75, I think I got it for 60 on Amazon. So I tell people, I think it's a decent budget light. Right now, it's only running, I think it's at 60% where it's sitting. 65. It's at 65 where it's sitting. So here's the day that, and this is exactly where I'm sitting right now. Here's the day that the 25 went out and the 75 went in. I got a picture before I tore down the 25. And this is the 75 once I put the plants in it. Apparently deleted a picture, but that's okay. It was just the picture that was on the thumbnail. You see I added some Java Fern over here, and you can see here in the middle, got a little bit of Ludwigia right here in the middle. That's already starting to turn yellow because I don't know what I'm doing. And I can't really tell what's over here on the left. I don't remember. It's another stem, kind of broad-leafed. There's some Bacopa in the back. I killed that quickly. And I don't think there's a slide number in my way, but I don't think I had any Crips at this point because I actually didn't like Crips in the beginning. Hey, Grant and Shelby, nice to have you. See if anybody else, Silver Creek. Okay. So that's that. And you see I'm running a large and a medium sponge filter. Highly recommend the medium sponge filter. The large is a pain to clean. And at this time, because this tank, this is right after it was set up, I took everything out of the 25, set up the 75. I still have my Aqua Clear. I think it's a 50, an Aqua Clear 50 pried on the back of the 75 because the 75, the lip was the top was so big, the 75 wouldn't, or the Aqua Clear wouldn't really fit. Needed the 110. I think you had to have the 110. So anyway, and the sponge filters were, the medium had been running for a little while. The large was new. All right. Moving on. You can see the Anubias over here, Bacopa. So that was what was in here initially. I did do sand, and I think this is part of my problem. What's this sand called? Starts with an A. I'm pretty sure. It's the one that everybody says will mess with your pH. Yeah, I should.
Well, I can't think of the name.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat's got us. I want to call it. It's not Argonite. Argonite. It is Argonite. Basement Aquatics has got it. Okay, so I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's Argonite sand that I got on sale at PetSmart. And my understanding is it can cause some issues. However, it's been in here for 2 years. So is it still causing issues? I don't know. But that is something that I think boosted my pH. I think it raises pH.
It does. I think a lot of cichlid guys use it to boost pH, and they have the reef versions of that sand. I believe a lot of it's what's the composition of it?
It could be because if I'm not, from what I remember, and I think it was top fins, it had like a clownfish on the front. So high mineral content. I've got extremely hard water. We've talked about that already.
Yeah.
So it didn't really help me. I don't think. I think it was probably a mistake to use that sand, but I knew no better. At this point, I was barely watching things online. This was once I added the driftwood. I also added a few more plants. You can see there's a few stem plants here or there. You see they are leggy. And at this point, I was probably still running that light at close to 100%. But things just aren't growing in. I wish I'd gotten that a little bit closer. Let's keep moving real quick. And there you go. So there's some Ludwigia. I had some success with this for a while. And Garage Echo Stephen P. Uh, let's see. So yeah, this is a side shot of that tank, and I did have some success. There's some indica, Rotala indica in the back. At least that's how it was sold to me. I think you sold me that. This might have been the plant you sold me.
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah, I think I picked up 3 or 4 different. It was on one of those sales that aquarium had where you could get like 3 or 4 marked down or whatever. But yeah, I did keep these plants for a little while. And this is the culprit. This is when things changed for me. Like I was seeing my plants grow. I was seeing success out of everything I was trying. I decided to pick up a Tiger Lotus. It's not very red. It was not red when I got it, and it never turned red. But so not long after putting it in, it broke off of the bulb. And I was like, oh, well, I'll see if the bulb will grow another one. And it did. So I ended up with 2 of them. And they are nutrient hogs. And it completely threw my tank off. And I was trying to get it dialed in. That's when the algae started. The algae came after I got out of control after adding these 2 plants. So I blame them. When the algae got real bad and I killed everything a few times and I was frustrated, they got thrown in the backyard.
Yeah, I've got some of those Tiger Lotus in the 55 behind me, and whenever you break a tank down with one of those in it, the root system is just massive. It'll spread through the entirety of the tank, pretty much.
Yeah.
They definitely they're nutrient hogs, like you said.
Yes. And it's a great plant. Looks awesome. I loved it. I was trying to keep it low, trying to keep it cut low, so that it would cover that large sponge filter. That's what it's sitting in front of right now on the right. And yeah, it just threw me off, and I never recovered from that. It took me a long. That's not true. It took me a while to recover from that. Um, so just more pictures of the plants. If there's something you want to like focus in on, let me know. But I'm just going to kind of click through these. So this was the Ludwigia before I started having issues. It got really tall before I started having issues. And so, not a lot of pinholes or anything. Nutrients seem to be doing okay. It was, the color, I lost that pink color very quickly.
Yeah, a lot of that will be your lighting, losing the color on them. If they're growing fine and the internodal spacing looks, normal,
Yeah.
it'll be your lighting. If there's no, obvious nutrient deficiencies, they'll it's pretty much your lighting
Yeah.
on that front.
So, and you see in this picture, kind of toward the middle to the left, you can see that Ludwigia is getting up there toward the top and it's starting to yellow. A little bit of nano petite here on this one too. And I don't know why I put it so high. It looked cool, but man, did it get the algae up there. Um, I learned much later. If you look where my Nubiuses are now, and this piece, can't really see it, right behind me is covered in Anubias. I keep it all shaded out with my other plants now. So I've learned that. This, let's see, let me keep going. Yeah, see that color? Losing the pink, turning yellow. The Bacopa was looking good. The Rotala was looking good, and it just at some point stopped. Let's see here. There you go. There's that yellow.
Yeah, what's
Did we
pretty
say hi to
interesting.
Metcal?
Here's a
Hello, Metcal and Hippie John.
here's a good. I think this is a really good photo to show the difference in the space between the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
Where the leaves are growing out of that
Right.
stem is where the nodes are located. That's where roots will come out as well, and new branches if you trim. But if you look on the bottom half of this image, the internodal spacing is larger than at the top.
Right.
Now you don't want to look at when you're looking at the spacing, you don't, in my opinion, you don't want to look at the very top because it's still growing. But if you
Right.
look at the second or third node down from the top versus the bottom, you can see the difference that that light's making in
Yeah.
getting that much more compact growth once it grows a little taller.
Yeah, and it was around this time that I added the Pogostem and Stellatus octopus. I had a lot of success with that for a very long time. And you see here, see that those like I lost some of them. These three just shot up and kept going up, and the Rotala just kind of hanging out where it was. I'm pretty sure I cut the Rotala a few times. Bacopa was hanging in there. There's some on, and you can see I was putting it in different parts of the tank. Just kind of, it's a test, right? I didn't know. I'm just kind of learning, trying to figure out where to put things, where I like it. At this point, it looks like I may have had a crypt. This slide number messes me up because I can't see if the crypts are down there because it's right where I know my crypts are. And so, yeah, so here I've cut them. So I've cut them in half and then planted what was left on those Ludwigia. I don't know why that was an issue. And you can see the Rotala starting to stick up here in the back. So it was starting to get some height on it. And let me remove these unless you got a question from them. Because apparently there's a limit on the file size. So I have multiples. Here I started seeing the pinholes, which is nitrogen.
No,
No.
generally that'll be phosphorus, I believe.
Oh, you're exactly right. Yeah, that's what I ended up
It's either
chasing with
phosphorus.
that.
I cannot remember phosphorus or potassium, but I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, potassium.
Okay.
Just looked in my notes. Yeah, potassium can cause those pinholes.
With nitrogen, it kind of browns, doesn't it? Is that the difference?
Nitrogen is going to be more so. Yeah, more so the color of your leaves. If it's lacking nitrogen, it can turn more of a yellow,
Yeah.
like pale. If it's got sufficient nitrogen, it'll be that rich green.
Yeah.
And that kind of plays the same for red plants as well. Actually, with less nitrogen for most red plants, they're going to turn more vibrant red, and there'll be more
Yeah.
green with nitrogen.
Yeah. So on the picture to the left, toward the back, you see how the Rotala is no longer thick. It's kind of, the leaves are getting longer and it's getting kind of leggy.
Mm-hmm.
So that continues. And Bacopa growing like crazy, doing well. Straight up though. And let's see. This was this was the teenage stage for this tank. It's just got a lot going on. It doesn't necessarily look great. It wasn't what I was looking for, but I was testing things. I was trying to figure out what I could grow, and where I needed to have it. Green means it needs nitrogen. Submerged or terrestrial nitrogen supports green growth. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, you can see on the bottom right, those are those first two crypts that I got. And all of my crypts, except for a couple, I got some Tropica from you, and I got some, is it Spiralis? Crypticorn Spiralis from Grant when they were here for Aquaticon. Every other crypt that I've had have come off these two that I grew right there. Oh, here they are.
Yeah, those are awesome looking crypts.
Yes, they were. Not so much right now. They're still here, but they're not looking so good. All right, so you can see I've definitely had some issues. I've had to pull some stuff out, starting to get a hole there. And they grew back. Pogostemon's taking over, doing well. You can see I let the Tiger Lotus work its way up, and just trying to get through these. You see, leggy, looking rough. That's the
definitely. It
Rotala
looks like
indica.
those lower leaves are starting to die off. That looks, honestly, to me, that looks like a combination of both nutrients and lighting.
Okay.
Probably,
Now I was dosing by this point. I probably was not using enough root tabs. I realized at some point that I needed to start putting root tabs underneath my stem plants too, because the internet had told me they were predominantly water feeders, and that's true. But if you're just feeding them through the water, they'll start doing those roots all over the place, right?
Yeah, that's when they get those aerial roots, because they can, from my understanding, they can take in some nutrients through the leaves. Aquatic plants can, but primarily those nutrients are going to come through the roots. So that's
Yeah,
why in my opinion, I always try to have a super nutrient rich substrate
you're right.
and go leaner on the water column dosing, because that also in turn can prevent, it doesn't allow the algae to have access to those
Right.
nutrients.
Those nutrients are down at the roots. Um, I don't remember this plant. It's a rotala, right? A red stemmed rotala. Um,
That looks to
or
me
I said
like
rotala. It's Ludwigia.
that is the super red Ludwigia, probably the Natans, but that's the immersed form.
Yes,
When it grows
and
immersed, its leaves will be green.
yes, and boy, was it a disaster very quick. Here it is when it did eventually start to get red for me. I did start seeing some red growth. Again, I saw some success. It's right here. It's already real leggy, and I had picked up some more Ludwigia and put behind it. You know, I probably turned up the light. I don't. This was this was a little over a year ago. Trying various things to find success with these. Really loved the way this looked. I don't think the super reds looked that great in the pictures, but they looked better in the tank at the time. Um, but you can see there's a lot of space between those nodes. And of course, if you look in this picture, they're almost gone. And by this point, Bacopa's gone.
I do like this comment from Silver Creek Aquatics. As a country boy that's got a terrestrial mega green thumb, nitrogen is the energy source, potassium is the flowering source, and phosphate is for rooting and development. I think that's a real good summary, and kind of captures in a nice little
Yeah.
bundle kind of what you're looking for. And then you've also got your micronutrients, which are needed but in less quantity.
All right, we tore through that one really quick, so I'm loading the other one. And this is the one that kind of gets to the present day. Like I said, there's apparently a cap on the file size. And I had them all loaded until my internet went down and it logged me out of StreamYard, and all the files get removed when you log out.
Hippie John says his Bacopa grows like a hungry teenager. Yeah, I found that to be the case. Mine grows absolutely crazy. I really enjoy. I think Bacopa is one of the plants that can easily, grow emerged and break the surface of the tank, and it looks really cool when it does that. Silver Creek says the micro and the macros are a constant learning experience still. Yeah, I definitely agree. I have tried to avoid going down that path of
Yeah.
full on fertilizer, mania. That's why I found one way that works for me and I kind of stick to it. Just super dense, or super nutrient dense substrate, and then the lean dosing on the column. I believe that's almost the sort of the ADA method versus the estimative index.
At this point, I was tired of the stems, and I moved. I propagated, pulled off some crypts, and started putting them in the area. And they grew in. Things were going well there. I ended up getting a really nice looking tank out of it. Once I gave up and quit trying, the pogo was growing like crazy, literally like a weed. The crypts started to grow in really nice. The Amazon swords were staying green. They were looking great. And then I decided, well, let's try it again. And they started to melt. And so we ended up clean over here again. And this was what? This was before we started live streaming, but when I started the channel, when I started trying the DIY CO2. And I feel like that did work some. Here's some stem plants, and you see some of the growth coming off of it, but also the aerial roots. but still really, really leggy. I thought that one Pogostem and Stellatus octopus looked pretty good. And you can see all the while, one thing that we haven't really talked about is I had some BBA, I had blackbeard algae start, and it was on my, because I was turning up my light. I was trying to balance the light and the nutrients and all of that. And so I ended up with a lot of BBA on my Anubias, and then it started on the spray bar, which the only place that I have blackbeard algae currently in this tank, there's a little bit on some of the rocks, and then there's some on that spray bar, but most of it's dead. Like if you look at it right now, well, in this picture, you see the red, tint to it. A lot of it's dead in that picture. And here's that Anubias that you can see it along the edges, the black, and this Anubias was just covered in it. All that's clear now. This piece of driftwood ended up with a lot on it, but that's clear. Here's some of the crypts down here, but you can see on the substrate, which is another thing that I think is probably a factor here that I'm dealing with. Because the 75 is so large, I went with gravel and I went with sand, and I feed with root tabs. I'm a little bit worried that my gravel's a little too big, and that maybe I'm getting some some stuff leaching through.
Yeah, I've always found that, especially with stem plants, they'll typically have some finer root structures versus, say, a crypt or an Amazon sword,
Yeah.
or even your, Vallisneria. For stems, I always prefer planting into a sand, a
Yeah.
fine sand, not too fine that's floating around everywhere, but and also that way it's more compact and it doesn't leach as much up through the water column, and it just kind of gives more surface for those plant roots to attach and spread throughout.
Yeah. So right here, this is about the time when I decided, and I think you and I were talking about it at this point, stems are not for me. And I'm looking over here at all these crypts, and I'm like, yeah, I like that. That looks good. And so, I mean, just look at it. I really liked it. I've got some. So this was after the first swap. So I've got some stems that people gave me at the end of the swap. They were like, hey, I don't want to take this home. Take some of this. You were one of those people. And so there's various stuff in here. And I think I got the, what's it called? Is it Japanese moneywort? Pennywort?
Penny, I thought it was, yeah, it was Pennywort, I believe. You got
Yeah,
that from JT,
that was you.
I
Oh,
think.
that was
Oh,
JT. I thought you
small leaf
brought
or the
it.
big leaf?
It was a small leaf.
Okay,
The
that's
big leaf I did get from JT. You're right.
I had the hydrocotyl tripartita.
Yeah, and I looked it up, and it was the common name was like Japanese pennywort.
Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's
I can't say those names, so I try to find the common name.
I butcher them, but yeah, that's what I know them by.
You see, at this point, I had just started with the CO2, the DIY CO2. There was still Blackbeard on this Anubias. That's that Anubias I've had since before the 25 gallon. And then this Bacopa is what Curtis gave me. It was super healthy when he gave it to me, and it was not by the time it left. The super reds over here, those came from you. And I just kept trying things and never really got there. All right, so here's my current setup. Here's what I have. I have this Nicru light. This is the classic plus planted. It would make more sense to call it the planted plus, but I think somebody else has that name, so they went with plus planted. This is some of the information on it as far as if you look it up, what you'll find. You see the color spectrum, a really high blue here, some green, but a fair amount of green there, and then a little spike on the red. And as far it's been a decent light. When I have had it up on the higher settings, I've had algae issues. So I don't know if I need to figure out how to balance my nutrients and go with those higher. But in the tank, Anubias, stems, do I really need to try and work that out, or do I need to do them separately? Should you have Anubias in with a bunch of stems? Is that a mistake?
I do have in the 40 gallon that I've probably shared the most photos of.
Yeah,
It's full of Anubias as well, but you don't really see it. That is
it's
because
underneath.
it is underneath driftwood. It's very shaded, and
Yeah,
that's because I do run highlight.
yeah,
The um, but it's, and I've got Boost and Anubias that are out in the open in the higher lighting. But if I let the tank, get out of balance, go a couple weeks without doing anything to it, they'll get some algae on them. So it's really all about, finding that balance. You can do Anubias and stems and all of that, but it's a lot of it's like we've talked about is that tank placement and
Yeah.
also how your tank is balanced. I think that the tank placement aspect is not so is big in freshwater like it is in saltwater with all the corals and whatnot like that. But you definitely got to take into account, okay, this is a slower growing plant. It's not going to need as much light. It can get algae by leaving. And I think another thing that can lead to larger bits of algae on the Anubias is how broad the leaves are. It's just got a big surface area for algae to grow. But I think we may have lost Mitch. It looks like he froze up. Let's see. I'll go back to the comments for a second. Silver Creek Aquatics was asking, is that Ludwigia on the right? I'm not sure which photo it was, but there's probably some in there. Talking about 2-hour Aquarius first. That's something I've wanted to try before is their first. I use the Nilo CG or Nylock G Thrive. It's an all-in-one. I don't like to chase and dose a bunch of different fertilizers when I use it. I only use it generally with water changes and maybe once midweek. But I do on the tanks that I do dose, I run pretty heavy CO2 and high lighting. But like I mentioned earlier, I have that really nutrient dense substrate, and we've got Mitch back.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet. I typically don't have issues, but today it is an issue for whatever reason. Okay, so I was actually pulling up. I was trying to go back to the picture that I think Silver Creek Aquarius was asking about. I think that's all Bacopa in that picture. If I was looking at the correct image at the time. For the most part, I've tried to keep Ludwigia over here. And the Bacopa only ended up over in the sand because I was trying it out in the sand. Since I wasn't able to grow it in the gravel, I was trying it out over on the sand side. So I don't think I had any Ludwigia over there. All right, this is loaded. Let me pull it back up and we'll jump. It was probably getting my clicking doing this. My setup here is not working well for the mouse. Okay. If it was this picture, that is Bacopa, and the Pogo Stemon erectus. Is that it?
Stellata, I believe.
Stellata. Okay.
Yes.
That was the one we talked about a little while back, and I was talking about how beautiful it was for a while, and then it just kind of fell apart on me, like everything else. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's Bacopa on that end.
We've got Glass Box Gardens in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. So they say,
what's up?
Anubias go great with stems, just need flow to keep them clean. Algae takes advantage of any detritus on the leaves. Yes, that is a big point. We have not talked about that yet. Is flow in a planted tank for stems for any plants? You want there to be you don't want there to be so much flow that everything's getting knocked around and can't, you want a pretty good flow to where the leaves are gently kind of moving.
Yeah.
And that keeps everything stirred up off the plants and keeps it in your filter, whatever you got going on. But that is a very good point.
Yeah, and I definitely think that was part of the issue. One thing that was weird about the Anubias is it's right in front of my canister filter's intake. So, I mean, I know there was flow right there, but it just stayed covered with algae. Now, we had talked about maintenance schedule. That was one of the things we were going to talk about for the 75. I do water changes most weeks. Sometimes, would go another week. Very rarely would go longer than that. Um, and that water change is typically closer to the 30%, sometimes 25. And I just found that with the mollies, I had a lot less issues if I kept that water change because I had so many. As far as dosing, I have been dosing Easy Green 2 times per week, 12 pumps. And with that, I'm staying below 40 parts per million and above 20, really close to that 20 mark, with that schedule. Root tabs, I put about 20 in once a month. I typically stack them. I put 2 or 3 around the Amazon swords because they are not happy unless they've got a ton of root tabs around them. The crypts, I keep the root tabs around the crypts, and then they go in the entire tank, all over the tank. But there's a few plants that I try to focus on and make sure they're getting some around them. This is my light schedule. Now, this is my current light schedule, and this light schedule was to get rid of the BBA, and it succeeded. So at 11 a.m., the light comes on, but it's only 10%. So it has a sunrise setting, and that's what happens. It kind of creeps up to that 10%. And then at 11:15, it goes on up to 65%. And that's where it runs until 3:30 when it shuts off. And I get a break in my light period until 5:30 when it comes back on at 65% and runs until, 9:30 p.m., where it drops back down to 10, starts to do the lights off. And at 10 o'clock, the lights are completely gone. That cleared the BBA. Between that and using Flourish is not carbon, the algae side. What's it called?
Excel.
Excel. That's it.
It's
So I
the
did.
aldehyde.
Yeah, I did spot treat the Anubias for a while, but at some point I no longer had to do that because it was just dying off, and so I just let it die. But that's my maintenance schedule. And then this is some of my most recent readings, and you can see here, to the left's the older, to the right's the latest. You can see I'm below 50, but probably above 20 on the latest one. Now, I will say I like using these test strips. I, of course, could probably get more accurate with the liquid kit, but I'm staying in the range that I've been told that I should be in, so I don't really care to get that close. If I'm wrong on that, let me know. But I feel like just knowing that I'm in the in the range is good enough. You can see on that first one, I believe that was after a large water change, a day or two. Well, probably just it was before I put the Easy Green in. I was trying to time it to where I had a little bit of time between changing the water, and you can see it's definitely below 20 on that one. Also, I wanted to point out GH off the chart.
Yeah, that is a very high GH. Let's see. I'm just trying to look at some of these. So personally with nitrate, I do not keep my nitrates that high. I keep them around 10 to 15. And you said so you do 12 pumps of the Easy Green?
Yeah, so the recommendation to start with on Easy Green is 1 pump per 10 gallons. Now that's on your standard tank that someone's got some plants and they're going to start using it. And then, you kind of build from there. And me trying to keep my nitrates around the 20, above 20, that's what I've found that I have to use in order to stay around that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is real important to note that those recommendations are recommendations. Every tank is going to be different, consume different amount of nutrients.
If you've got I have to do plants, it. Yeah, I have to do it twice a week too. Like that's not once a week. I do it the first time, and so I typically do my water changes on Saturday or Sunday, and so typically they're late in the day, and the next day in the morning, right, about an hour before the lights come on, is typically when I will dose the Easy Green. And then it goes until, depending on when I did the water change, Wednesday or Thursday, and that's when it gets the next one. And then of course Saturday, Sunday, we're getting a water change again. So that's almost like clockwork every week. The KH, which I'm finding recently, thanks to Stephen P. and their live stream, that KH could be a factor here. That higher KH can definitely impede growing stem plants. And if you look on the one on the left, it's very clear I'm around 180. And it's kind of odd because if you look on the next two, it's kind of going lighter, but it's still that deep color in the middle. And I don't really know what that's an indicator of. Sometimes I get that and sometimes I do not. I don't know if that's just the test strip, or if it is something with the water. It seems like it would be the strip to me.
I feel like that would be the strip. I will say I haven't used these before.
Yeah.
The test strips. I'd be quite frank, I don't test
Yeah. Well, now
extremely often.
I don't test often. When we first talked about doing this live stream, I said I'm going to take a couple of weeks to keep up with the tank. So these tests were during those 2 weeks. And then of course you can see my pH. I will say this: anybody who's considering these test strips, I think they're great for indicators. They're not exact. They're not meant to be exact, but pH, you could definitely get closer, a better idea of your pH from a liquid kit if you know what you're doing. Because what a lot of people don't realize is you can do that wrong. I was doing it wrong and had an ammonia spike, and I swore I didn't have ammonia. Come to find out that it was how I was doing the test kit. Now, it's been a while, but still, it was how I was doing the liquid test kit. I was doing it slow so I could get uniform drops, which that's all the instructions say: uniform drops, slow, uniform drops. That's wrong. That'll give you bad readings. They got to be fast uniform drops, because if you do it fast, they're more uniform than slow, apparently. And then when I came back, and because I talked to someone at the store, when I came back and tested again the way they told me, I had ammonia. So that was in my quarantine tank. But but pH with the liquid kit, you can get more precise. I have a hard time with this orange chart telling where I'm at. I can tell you that when I was running DIY CO2, I stayed between I didn't hit 6.8. It was right at 7 and 8.2. That's the range that I stayed in. I was able to drop it around 1 degree on the pH when I was running CO2, but typically 8.2 is normal for me. And that's out of the tap. Out of the tap, I'm right at 8.
That in combination with that aragonite sand could be one of the, it's not giving you any ability to drop that pH at all. And, on the topic of substrate, while it's on my mind, that gravel with as many root tabs as you put in, I feel like could definitely just be, allowing too much nutrients, to reach the water column. So I feel
one thing I've considered doing is getting a smaller gravel and kind of capping it. Because I feel like that, because I've had issues with the algae on the gravel on the bottom of my tank, I feel like that's a pretty good indicator that could be part of the problem too. Basement Aquatics says you need a water softener system. I do.
That could be. You could try adding RO at times.
Yeah.
Maybe not a full water change of it, but replace 10% with RO and see where that gets you. Because I feel like you and I.
So what am I trying to do with that?
Reduce the hardness.
Okay.
GH and KH, because RO, true RODI water will basically be pure water.
Yeah.
No minerals, anything like that. But we've talked about this for a long time outside of this stream. I feel like it definitely feels like a combination of things.
Yeah. So it's not one thing. It's not like I can just flip a switch and have it. It is this tank's just up a creek.
It grows plants, just not stems.
It does grow plants. See, that's the thing. Now, I don't have a problem with just having crips and swords. I love it. I when this thing is grown in, recently, and I did a video on this. Recently, I had an issue where I allowed the floating plants to get out of control because I had something I was doing, and I really had some issues with that to the point that I've actually got a see if I can show it. There's a spot right here that's bare, and that original crypt that I was showing, it looks horrible. Like it has mostly like I'll post a picture so we can talk about it because I'd have to move a lot of things to get there. But it looks bad. It has new growth on it now, but it practically died off to where it just looks like I don't know. Um, it looks like roots above the substrate, the stems, and but it does have fresh growth coming off of it now, so it's coming back. And I've wondered if maybe I put a root tab underneath it and it burned it a little. I don't know if that is really a thing, but I have read it on the internet. I think Abraham Lincoln said that. 8.2 out of the tap is crazy. Yeah, so it's not 8.2 out of the tap. It's really high 7, right around 8 out of the tap. Um, and it is hard water for sure. I battle the buildup all the time. Only Oscars is here and says that the test strips look like theirs. The results look like theirs, and yeah, and they're consistent too. Like I don't see a lot of fluctuation. The only time I saw some fluctuation was when I was doing DIY CO2, and like I said, I was able to get it. Curtis told me that for the CO2, I wanted to get about a degree down on my pH, and so that's how much I when I tweaked it, that's where I tweaked it to. And I also had a CO2 indicator that I put into and kept it at green. So I feel like a lot of the issues that I have currently with the plants that I've had success with in the past is because I ran CO2 for a while and then I took it away because I ended up having issues with my DIY system, and it gassed my tank one day. I was home, thankfully, noticed the fish, and was able to walk over and see the yellow indicator. Is it yellow? I think yellow's the bad.
Yeah, yellow.
Yeah. Blue is no CO2, yellow's bad, green's good. And so I immediately got to work on, cut off the CO2, let's change some water because I knew my pH was dropping, and everybody made I didn't lose anything. Everything came through. But yeah, so if I wanted to do stems, I've got the sand. The sand's not going to come out. I mean, it would be a chore. It would be a tear down the tank chore.
I would keep the sand. I plant my stems in
Okay.
Sand. Well, of course, it's sand capping aqua soil and other my mixed substrate.
Yeah.
Then, real quick on the note about burning that crypt, Zen Ginger says Steven just told me not to put root tabs too close to their pink flamingo crypts because their roots are more sensitive.
Yeah,
If you
I
just
think that's
meant
what I
crypts
did.
specifically, there can, because you can have fertilizer that's too hot and it'll
Right.
burn up plants.
I think
Um,
that's what happened. Just looking at it, I feel like it's not a normal melt back. It didn't melt. It's not what it did. Um, it looks totally different than anything I've ever seen. So I definitely now the Amazon swords seem to be different. They're like, get those root tabs right underneath
yeah.
me. Um, you know, but yeah, the crypts, I feel like I burned them because I'm not looking like this image right now, but I'll get it back there. Uh, so we've got the sand's probably a culprit, but we can't remove it. We're not going to. Um, Lighting. So what do you think I should do? Let's just do that. Where would you start?
So if it were me,
Mm-hmm.
if it were my tank, I would probably, I know sand's not coming out, but I would probably change out the gravel and sand, go back with a, aqua soil or, a planted tank substrate.
Right.
It is pricey, but there's workarounds.
Yeah.
Um, and then probably, I just think that it's a combination of the gravel. It's a combination of the nutrients are out of balance. You're
Yeah.
your pH, your water hardness, and then um, your lighting. I think lighting's too low, but whenever you increase the lighting, because the nutrients are not a little wonky, they're not like bad,
Right.
not terrible, but I feel like that when you increase the lighting, you get algae because there's potentially too many nutrients. So if you were able to increase lighting, reduce the nutrients, maybe you'd have a better shot. Because
Okay.
it looks like a
So
lot of times the stems get leggy, which
yeah.
is more indicative of lighting. But
So let's say we increase the lighting. Would you bump it from 65 to 70 and then decrease the pumps? Let's say we take the pumps down from, we take the pumps down to 8 twice a week. See how that does. Would you go 65 or I'm sorry, would you go 70 or 75?
I'd, probably, if you've got time and you're patient with it, I'd do it slower.
That okay,
You
even
know,
slower than 5 degree.
well,
Okay.
no, I think 5% is a 5%
Oh,
increase is fine.
okay. So we
Um,
take it up to 70 and I do a little less of the easy green.
a pump or two less, see where that gets you.
Yeah.
Um, and that could be, if you have you got stems in there now? I can't
No.
remember.
Well, so only the pogo stemmen, and it's gnarly. Like it looks horrible. It's just all crinkled up, and I'll put a picture of that out there too. Um, Kane, I've got rock water too. Yeah, that limestone, we got it. Um, so yeah, I don't because honestly, I don't know that I want them in this tank. But I wanted to do this to understand what is going on with my tank so that when I do the 20 longs, if I want to do one with, stem plants and do a nutrient rich substrate, I mean 20 longs not that big. I can do it,
Mhm.
relatively in comparison to the 75, it's a big difference, huge difference. Um,
Right.
because I'm talking what 30 inches by 12 inches on that base and then go up probably 4 inches or in the back and or whatever I would decide to do. But um that's a possibility. I'm still going to have I mean, I won't have the same light. So there'll be some factors, but I wanted to get a grip on why the 75 struggles, not so much because I'm going to start putting stems in it again, but because it's to learn what is going wrong. Because I tried so many times, and sometimes had a little bit of success, but always ended up losing them.
Yeah, if you're not going to put stems back in it, and if you're still battling, a little bit of algae, the only thing I'd probably do is if you're not seeing any nutrient deficiencies, is maybe cut back from that 12 pumps to 8 and just reduce that nitrate a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, that's what I would do. But my sort of methodology is always to dose less.
Oh,
I think,
yeah, I would like to. Like I said, I've been trying to keep the nitrates around 20, and that was where that got me in the sweet spot. Where when my water change came time, um, I'd drop a little bit, and then I'd be right back at 20, and then through the week I would drop a little bit, and I'd be right back at 20. The only time I saw it get higher than that was when I was just overrun with mollies.
yeah,
There was one point I have only, I mean, and as many mollies as I have a lot of plants. The highest I ever saw, and I don't remember what it was. I had a number of things going on, and I did not change the water in the tank for over a month. And at the time, I did not have any stems, but I think I don't. I'm trying to remember which chart I had because I honestly don't remember which chart it was that I was high on. If it was the co-ops, and I don't think it was. I think it was before the co-ops. I knocked that magnet off. I think it was around 80. So even then, it's not like a dangerous level. It's just a not good to keep them at level. Um, and a 30% water change brings you down pretty quick. And then I think I did a second one that week later in the week because I don't like to do 50s or anything like that. But yeah, I think we got a lot of information. We were able to talk it out a little
hmm
bit, and everyone kind of seen the progress on the 75. This picture is about the time when it was my favorite. Right after this Ludwigia went out, That was when I got crypts going all the way across, and it was just gorgeous. It was my favorite. I still had some BBA in it at that time though. So yeah, I am going to tweak the lighting a little bit. I would love to use less ferts. I don't like buying fertilizer. And so if I can lower that and increase my lighting a little bit and it work out for these, I mean, for a long time, I've just been kind of tweaking, trying to find what will work. I get kind of jealous though of people that figure it out quick, because I have not figured it out quick.
Yeah, that photo of the tank looks great. I love those crypts. I've been tossing around the idea of doing a crypt only tank, just because the maintenance of it. All my tanks have
Yeah.
stems and fast growing plants, and it can take a long. That's one thing, when stems start growing, it can take forever to trim them. They're definitely the most high maintenance plants.
Yeah, they are. They are. And I saw Kane earlier talking about how he wouldn't fool with it. It's too much work. If it doesn't grow, he doesn't need to grow it. And that's kind of where I've been for the last year. If it won't grow, I don't need to grow it. I've moved away from the stems and just said, okay, this tank's not going to do it. From the startup set me up. I believe the sand's a factor. I believe my water is a factor. I believe there's a number of factors, like you said, that are keeping me from being able to grow them in this setup. Once I get the other tanks set up and I play around with them for a little while, maybe I decide I want to play around with the 75, and I've got places to disperse, inhabitants and plants. One of the things I've said is, maybe I move some of the low light plants out of here. The Vallisneria is growing all the way across the 75 now. It's taken off, and I've had that plant for years too. It was one of the first plants that I had success with, but it took a long time to really set up. That's going to be it for tonight, though. We are over 15 minutes. We're not supposed to do that. I don't know why we're not supposed to do that, but I don't think we're supposed to do that. Anything for where you at Aquaticon? Is there Aquaticon in here? What's that all about? This engineer, who are you talking to? Hey, Natkins, Adkins Nature Aquariums, welcome. Sorry we're leaving. I think you've been in here for a little while, though.
We also had Fish Central join us a little
Yeah.
bit later. I want to thank y'all all for joining.
Yes.
I know we missed probably a couple comments, maybe more than a couple this stream. Oh, and my camera's gone. And I'm back.
Basement Aquatics is wearing his t-shirt tonight. That's good to know. Is that the ETAA t-shirt? Otherwise, it's awkward. Yeah. So, all right, that's it. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate all the mods. Thank you for everyone who's been in the chat, enjoying conversation. Sorry if we missed your comment. I do go through and read through the live chat later. So, thank you. And I see Aquaticon again. People are talking about it, I guess. Keeps throwing me off. But yeah, that's it. Thank you. Enjoy your tanks, and stay scruffy. Check out ETAA Swap October 8th. Music
and
City.
MCAS.
Yeah. MCAS on October. Is that the first? I think it's the first. It has to be
October 1st.
October 1st. All right. All of y'all have fun at your event up there in Pennsylvania. Keystone Clash. If you didn't know about it, look it up. It's going to be awesome. I'm not going to be there. I'm jealous. Y'all have a good night.
Yep. Bye.